During an A and B convention, in the middle of laying the foundation for legal recognition of Alaskan Native citizenship, Peter Simpson leaned towards William Paul Sr. and asked, "Is the land yours, Willie?" When Willie Paul answered yes, Simpson replied, "Then fight for it." So who was Peter Simpson? What battles did he fight? And how did he help open the door for Alaskan Natives to pursue citizenship, land rights, and political recognition? Peter Simpson was born in 1871, a Simpson from Metlakatla who would later move to Sitka in the early 1900s. He was educated in a Presbyterian missionary environment, the Sitka Industrial Training School, which would later be known as the Sheldon Jackson School. This played a significant role in shaping his worldview. Rather than rejecting the system entirely, Simpson would later use the lessons learned to fight for Native rights. By 1887, Peter Simpson would graduate and found a small sawmill with a fellow Simpson, Mark Hamilton. The sawmill burned down in 1904, and as Alaskan Natives, they could not get the title to the land to rebuild. Simpson's family indicates that this is the source of his lifelong fight for land claims. What were the difficulties Alaska Natives faced at the time? Alaska Natives faced several legal and social restrictions in the early 1900s. They could not vote as they were not recognized as U.S. citizens. Two such limitations came in the form of the civilization requirements, a 1915 territorial act that allowed natives to vote only if they passed an examination proving they had abandoned tribal customs and adopted habits of a civilized life. The second was a literacy test. Following a 1924 Citizenship Act, the 1925 Alaska Voters Literacy Act was passed, requiring voters to read and speak English, which intentionally disenfranchised many Alaska Natives. They could not own title to land. Uh, two such actions taken to limit this were the federal trust responsibility. Legal precedents applied in Alaska around 1905 determined that Alaska Natives held aboriginal rights to use the land, but that only the U.S. government could grant or hold full title. There was also a restrictive allotment process. While the 1906 Native Allotment Act technically allowed ownership, it was severely limited to 160 acres of unappropriated land, requiring rigorous proof of use and was often difficult for natives to access, with only 80 allotments approved between 1906 and 1960. They were often denied access to local education. Instead, they were funneled into federal, mission, and charter schools, uh, where they would erode native culture. In many cases, they could not even be licensed to operate boats. Despite living on the land for generations, they were treated as outsiders within their own homeland. This was the environment in which Peter Simpson began his work. In 1912, Peter Simpson became a central figure in the founding of the Alaskan Native Brotherhood along with 11 other individuals. Peter was the only member of the committee who was not Tlingit. The Brotherhood was one of the first unified political organizations dedicated to advancing Alaska Native rights. It created a collective voice where there had previously been fragmentation. Peter served as its first president and remained a guiding force for the organization throughout his life. But his leadership was not defined by speeches or public dominance. Instead, it was steady, thoughtful, and deeply influential. As John Hope later described, Peter was not a forceful orator. He was sincere, soft-spoken, and wise. Hope noted that Simpson was responsible for many of the accomplishments credited to other leaders because he worked behind the scenes, guiding decisions and shaping direction. Peter Simpson's life was a storied one. Not only did he start a movement that would move forward the fight for Alaska Native rights, but he'd also assist in education and economic development. Peter would eventually found a sawmill in Sitka, in the same city he would later get involved with the school he attended in his youth, even making a boat for them, which would later become a Navy patrol ship. He found a partner in Mary Sloan and fathered 15 children. He would ultimately pass away in 1947, but his deeds laid the groundwork for change. Simpson's importance lies not only in what he did, but in what he helped to make possible. By helping organize the Alaska Native Brotherhood, he created a foundation for long-term political advocacy. The organization would go on to influence future efforts towards citizenship, civil rights, and eventually land claims. His influence can be seen in figures like his granddaughter, Isabella Grady, who was a capable activist in her own right. The question Simpson asked in 1925, "Is the land yours?" was more than rhetorical. It was a call to action. Peter Simpson was not the loudest leader of his time, but he was one of the most important. Through quiet leadership and organization, he helped lay the foundations for the Alaskan Native civil rights movement in the early 20th century. And in doing so, he helped open the door for future generations to continue to fight for recognition, rights, and identity.